here, and I would like for y'all to please introduce yourselves, please. Starting with you.
Stephanie Grace from the Advocate.
Thank you.
Mark Schlestein, NOLA.com, time speaking.
Jeff Adelson with the Advocate.
Okay. Good to see you.
Lindsay Fick with Category 5.
Okay. Thank you for being here.
Alex Woodward from the Navy.
Wonderful. And the gentleman all the way in the back, you're with who?
I'm with CPRA.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
And then
Oh,
Summer Moore with the NOLA Defender.
okay. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you. Okay. 1 month ago, the Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority filed a historic lawsuit against 97 oil, gas, and pipeline companies to hold them responsible for the damage they caused to the coastal wetlands. There was an immediate reaction from the governor, from Governor Jindal. And the governor has proposed a myriad different reasons to oppose this lawsuit, and as of this time, as of this moment, there has not been a single objection with merit. And today, we're going to talk to you about what we have found to be the real reason that Governor Jindal opposes this lawsuit. And before I turn this over to other members of the group today, I would like to mention something very sad. A supporter was going to come this morning, and he texted me in a panic and said he could not come to this event today because the nonprofit of which he is president accepts grants from BP and Shell. And this is a travesty. And I told him he had to listen to his conscience, but I also told him that that is the real reason that the oil, gas, and pipeline company is allowed to get away with their negligence. And I'd like to turn the podium over to Ann Rolfes.
Thanks everybody for coming here today. I don't think I have to have a quiz about what this picture is, right? This is our carved up coastal area. This is a picture taken in the 1980s in the area that was once actually a golden meadow in Terrebonne Parish. And so this is why we're here today. As I'm sure you all know, not only is the oil and gas and pipeline industry responsible for this destruction, but they actually acknowledge it. So we have a lot of common ground here. So here's a picture of our governor, which should come into focus shortly. But you know, he's not a dumb person, and so you have a lot of facts on the table. One is that the oil companies have acknowledged that they've contributed to this problem, and yet they don't want to fix it. And you have to ask yourself, an educated person like Bobby Jindal, why in the world would he not be supportive of something that is just really common sense? And unfortunately, we have a million reasons why, right? Since about 2003, since he began his political career, he has received at least $1 million and probably a lot more, but this is what we could find. There's a lot of stuff that we could not look up because it's given by individuals. So the list that some of y'all have is this list, right? $1 million man. And as you can see, some of them are big companies and some of them are smaller Louisiana companies like Stone Energy and Taylor Industries. I want to walk you through how we got the information. It's a pretty basic review of campaign finance records. As you might know, the Ethics Administration program keeps this stuff online. So here's their, that's their website, and then we just did a search. And when you do this search, this is what comes up, a long list of contributions for Bobby Jindal. I am absolutely no expert in campaign finance, but my understanding of it from having gone through this information is that the requirements for reporting are that you have to report a contribution within 48 hours of receiving it, and then within 30 days of the election, you have to report all of your campaign, all of the contributions. And so that's what this information is. And so this is just to give you an idea of the search form. You see you can search by date, you search the candidate. And then after you search, here's an example of some contributions, and it may be hard to see from there, but it is on your long list. From Hellas Oil Company. And this, I highlight them simply because they're the biggest contributor at about $25,000 over the course of his career. Note that your list is in alphabetical order, so if you're wondering if a particular company gave, you can just look alphabetically. And then this is the report that the candidate himself files. And again, here you have a long list of people, including on this example on Marathon Oil. And again, just another example of a candidate's report. So the long and short of it is that since about 2003, all of this is approximate, right? This is the information we could find. There's more. There are 231 contributions at an average of $4,000. And so it's interesting. What that means is that his obligation is really spread around the industry. I think it might be better had he taken $1 million from one company, because then he would only be obliged to a single entity, right? But in this case, he's received an average of $4,000 per donation from a multitude of companies, meaning that he's really obligated to the oil and gas industry as a whole. And our point here today is that you're seeing that obligation play out. There is absolutely no other explanation for why Bobby Jindal refuses to make the oil and gas industry pay for the coast that it acknowledges that it destroyed. No other explanation other than the fact that he's received over $1 million in contributions. So I want to put this in context, all right? You know, on the one hand, we don't want to be extreme and go overboard, but this is pretty serious, right? The gravest threat to our state, which is the destruction of our coast, right, is being held up because this man has received over $1 million from the oil industry and, as we all know, has political aspirations beyond Louisiana. All right, so you can see this rogues gallery of scandal that we have here, and Bobby Jindal at this point is a leader of this rogues gallery, because all of the men that you see on this page have done terrible things, and a lot of them have gone to prison for it. But it's all been about money or power. You know, this is certainly about money or power, but what he's threatening is actually the existence of the state itself. And so I encourage y'all to think about him in this context, that because he's received $1 million, he's willing to actually literally let our state be washed down the drain. And here you have, oh wait, excuse me, here's the governor today. Wait, is this a puppet on a string? Are you an oil man? I hand it over to Bobby Jindal, who's going to do a little dance for us. Please note our series of logos: Valero, Murphy, BP, ConocoPhillips. ConocoPhillips is on his list of contributors. So with that, I'll let the governor keep dancing and hand it over to Darryl Malik Wiley at the Sierra Club.
Louisiana is facing a crisis on the Gulf. We've been having this extreme land loss for as long as I've been an environmental activist in Louisiana in the 1980s. We know that between 35 and 90% of the oil of the Louisiana coastal land loss is related to oil and gas exploration, subsidence from withdrawal of fluids, and other factors. And it's time for the governor to talk about getting them to fix the coast that they broke. We have oil companies come and say, well, we donated $1,000 here, we donated $10,000. Those are drops in the bucket. These oil companies have received billions of dollars of worth and wealth out of Louisiana's coast. And it's time for them to come back and pay for the damages they caused. And we think that the governor has millions of reasons why not to support this. And we think it's time that he listens to the people of Louisiana and the world. We have put together a petition site. We have over 12,000 people supporting this activity right now, and it's time for the governor to listen to the people of Louisiana, not big oil and gas. I'll open it up for questions at this point to any of the speakers.
Can I ask, the previous slide,
Okay.
you had the governor surrounded by a bunch of people who are convicted criminals for the
Yeah.
most part, except for the one
Yeah,
up right above him.
yeah.
Are you saying he's a criminal?
Well, again, just, I preface this, well, Vitter is not a convicted criminal, right?
That's the one.
I think it's important not to be extreme, in the conversation, and so I prefaced it with saying that. And yet, there are some steps that a politician, or anybody, including this politician, can take that may not rise to the level of landing you in jail, but certainly put you in great moral jeopardy. And this is one of those situations, again, where it's a pretty clear situation, $1 million plus in campaign contributions, and so he's failing to take up for the coast. So, I don't put this slide up lightly by any stretch, and I get the comparisons that we're making, but we think it's apt based on the level of gravity here.
Yeah, and one thing to add to that, we have to understand that fixing Louisiana coast is gonna cost lots of money. Without bringing the oil companies to the table, the governor's saying the taxpayers of Louisiana, of America, should pay for this restoration of the coast. We think that the oil companies need to pay their fair share in this whole process. And that's what it's about, fairness and equality. And here on the day that we're remembering a famous speech in Washington, D.C. 50 years ago, I have a dream. I want to see Louisiana coastal wetlands restored and the oil companies paying their fair share. Any other questions? Okay.
I actually have one question. Again, I'm representing myself. I'm a union lawyer. And I don't know if I'm the only lawyer in the room. Usually there's a bunch of lawyers out here. But shouldn't Mr. Jindal be called into question to get his own lawyer? Isn't he maybe trying to influence a lawsuit? And is there some agenda behind his, not just the fact that he wants more contributions, I'm sure he wants the ideology of the right, but isn't he maybe at a point where he may be obstructing a legal matter? Maybe he has to get his own lawyer or get, maybe he could be part of a deposition later on. I mean,
I don't think any of us are lawyers in this room, so we'll have to leave that to legal experts. I'm sorry. I don't want to get too far into the briar patch.
Can I ask a question about this list? This
Right.
is state, based on state records, not federal, so it
No,
doesn't,
that's the point.
it doesn't include
Just-
when he was in Congress, which would be separate.
It would include someone who's a state representative to
Okay.
Louisiana.
No, he was in Congress.
When he was
Federal.
working for the state, yes.
Yes, okay, but not when he ran campaigns for
You know,
Congress. That's a
um,
separate- You didn't search the FEC.
No, we did not, no.
Okay.
and how many lawyers are representing the plaintiffs in this case at this point? Or is there a lead lawyer that can also ask questions about whether Mr. Jindal is obstructing some part of the case right now, and maybe again, is his intentions, every time he opens his mouth, he's using public money. Every day, every minute that he says anything about this, he's using our public money. He's a public employee. Is that something that the lawyers maybe want to look at?
They might. We'll pass that concern on to anybody that we know in the legal field.
What's your guys' guess as to why Ellis is the top contributor?
I don't know. I haven't really done research on that company to know what part of the state they're drilling in or what they're doing.
Maybe you could ask Hellas.
I wouldn't say.
Well, and you know what is tricky is that sometimes, you know, the companies are called different things, and so they'll show up differently, and so, you know, they appear to be on this list, but it could be that, you know, there's somewhere where Exxon got typed in with one X and we didn't search that way. So this is by no means any sort of definitive representation.
But it's people, it is contributions by the companies and also contributions by individuals who identify themselves as
Yes.
working for companies.
Yes.
Are these
That we could
relative-
find.
Are these relative to any particular dates, or are they organized by any dates?
Well, no, they're not, they're organized alphabetically, so we could find people easily. So the database goes to 1999, and his election, first one was versus Blanco in '03, so that's what we've got.
And this is the whole industry, this isn't just the defendants in the suit.
Exactly, yes, yes.
This list, does it include individuals as well from those oil companies?
It's from some of them, not, you know, we don't know all the names of the people engaged with the companies, but certainly some of them. And
Because I know that in campaign contribution forms, you're supposed to list who you work for. In some cases, people have done that. In other cases, they might be retired. So that's one loophole. There are loopholes in campaign finance reporting.
Stephanie, I think the names, the individual names included on that list are registered lobbyists
Okay.
only who represent oil, gas, and pipeline companies. They're not, you know, plant employees or line engineers. They're not rank and file employees. They are registered lobbyists who either work for the companies themselves or who are registered to lobby on behalf of the companies with the Board of Ethics.
Okay, and the reason I was asking that is because I just did a search on Hellas Oil and Gas, and Mr. Hellas also gave Jindal.
Oh, and we don't have.
How much?
5,000.
Add it right there. Somebody write.
Yeah, so, you know, this, I mean, you can see, we're at a minimum here, right? This is what we could find, you know, in a day, yeah.
So I want to make sure we're clear on this. Are you saying that Jindal should accept no money from oil and gas?
We're saying that that he should not be influenced, that he should not be meddling in this lawsuit because of what he owes oil and gas.
We hope to
Look,
receive.
look, the oil industry has made a lot of money in this state, right? And they give it to schools, and they give it, you know, to Jazz Fest, all right? They should be giving, right? They're making a lot of money. But the problem is that there's something they expect now when they give some money. And that's when we have the problem, right? Is when politicians and those who receive the money think that now their actions are frozen because they owe something to the oil industry. That's the problem.
Didn't his wife work for a chemical company, and she had a fund that she was actually, and you may be talking about this later on, I hear, but are you gonna look into the companies, the pet companies that have been, that have supported this kind of, I don't wanna say slush fund, but is that something?
Our research is ongoing in a whole number of different fields. Any other questions?
And you're saying you think this is the sole reason he is interfering?
It's a big reason why. I mean, you know, I think what happens is that, you know, this sort of thing, you know, whatever the issue is, this sort of thing happens, right? This time it's a lawsuit, it's a very big deal, right? And you say, oh, the industry, you know, these politicians are bought off. And we kind of accept that and we move on. And then we sort of look for other reasons or something. You know, that is not minor, especially since he has presidential ambitions. You know, I'm sure there are probably many reasons. These guys are probably his friends too. So on a personal level, he probably doesn't want to make them accountable. But you know, is it the only reason? Who knows? But it is a very good reason. It is a very strong reason.
And I think, you know, there might be some philosophical reasons. You have to remember when Governor Jindal was Secretary of Health and Hospitals in Louisiana, he opposed the tobacco lawsuit. And now he's opposing big oil. So that's sort of a quote, philosophical continuation of his beliefs in small government, whatever. But we feel that it is time for these companies not to pay pittance on the dollar, but to come up and fix the wetlands that they broke.
Yeah, and just philosophically, it could be read many ways. It can be read that way, but then also you could certainly argue that he's going against his philosophy by having a government bailout of the oil industry for its own destruction.
Yeah, no, I know there's been some claims that the lawsuit would interfere with some of the master plan efforts. Do you guys see any legitimacy in that?
Maybe a gentleman from Quipra could explain that.
Oh, I'm not here to speak on behalf of anybody. I'm just here to listen.
I can answer that question. Thank you. By the way, I didn't identify myself. I'm Sandy Rosenthal with levees.org. And I've attended the CPR meetings. I've driven to Baton Rouge. I've been involved with the entire plan from the get-go, very familiar with how the plan works. And if the objection that this lawsuit could interfere with the ability of the master plan to be carried out implies that the master plan is rigid and unyielding and inflexible. And therefore, it's a bad plan, if that's true. The lawsuit takes years. There will be plenty of time for it to be possible that money may be coming to be put toward the master plan. The master plan, if it's a properly done document, can be tweaked. So there is, that has been raised as an objection, but there's nothing to support that objection.
Well, and there's another dynamic at work. I think, you know, when I hear Garrett Graves speak, what I'm hearing is that the oil industry is furious about this, and that what they are doing is now refusing to cooperate. And so that's a whole other question, you know, that they should be held accountable for. Because they don't like a lawsuit, they're going to hold the master plan hostage. That would be who's responsible for messing with the master plan. It would be the oil industries that's, you know, behaving petulantly.
And the bottom line is that the master plan is unfunded. And the oil and gas and pipeline industries are responsible for some of the damage. They've admitted it, and they should pay their fair share. just like everyone else, rather than the taxpayers. The governor wants the taxpayers to pay to fix what big oil broke, and that is fundamentally unfair.
Okay, thank you very much for coming. We'll keep you in touch. If you made sure and sign the sign-in sheet, we'll send you any press releases that come out in the future.